Morning, guys. Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, and Simba, the big, beautiful hunk of flesh. All right, so we're out on another day here, and you guys have seen me working dogs for a while. If you've been watching my videos for any length of time, you'll hear a lot of things that I say again and again. And one of those things, good, is one of my famous sayings. And what that is always too fast and never too slow. All right, so at this point in time, we've shown you the two turnoffs, and I'm starting to see that the dog's getting flat. My emphasis too much on trying to get you guys to understand this. And then I start sensing in the dog that he's starting to go flat, he's not enjoying the work. So I've got to bring up his drive state. You heard me talking about that yesterday. So this is when I start to back off. Remember that rule, always too fast, never too slow. So anytime I start to have a problem, drive is usually the answer, right? But at the same time, drive is a double-edged sword. Right now, his want for these BALLs, okay, is way over the top. Gets in my way. Now the dog's not working for me. He's wanting what he wants, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. But I've got to be the one that manipulates and controls this dog's drive state and understands dog psychology to a point where I can get this to work for me. I did that on just a second ago, and now I've created a whole nother problem. Look where the dog's at. OPA. So that being the case, one, I want to keep his drive state up, and then I want to be conscientious of it just being like a scale, like a balancing scale. That's why balanced trainer. We're talking about aversives when we're using a stem collar. When I use the pinch collar, that's an aversive. That suppresses the dog, but it also suppresses his mental attitude of happiness, which brings the dog down. So if you ever go out to a dog show like a Schutzen trial and things, that judge is watching you work that dog. He's watching the dog. He's reading that dog's body language. And everything about that dog tells him a lot, or her a lot, okay? Tells the judge a lot. They can read that animal and they can see when that dog has been suppressed to the point where he's not working with a desired animation and enthusiasm in the work, and all that matters, right? So when you go out on the trial field, you can't have a dog that's been overworked and aversive, because he's going to show it. They call it pressure. They're going to show the pressure. Come on. And so it's important that you understand that. And for me, I don't trial. I don't go out and compete. But there may come a time that I do. I'd like to take Bruno and get him interested in Schutzen and actually get out on the field to a point where I learned to be a good handler, because that's why they call it a team. They call it a team for the simple fact that it's both him and me, or dog and person, right, and handler. And it's important that you understand that. That's why they always accent that aspect of things when they're judging. They judge the team. They don't just judge the dog, right? And the competitors, they all look at it that way. It's that person's ability to have that quality and relationship with his animal that brings that animal's animation out on the field. Nope. To a point where they show themselves in that way. Now we're talking Schutzen. It's one of the most demanding sports out there for the dog because of the criteria. And as you climb up the ladder as a beginner, you're in a club, you're learning and growing, your counterparts that are in the kennel, that it takes a village attitude. Yep. And it does, right? Those people that are competing and winning to that level are getting a lot of help from the community as a whole, believe me. Yep. And you'll see things that denote that within the posting that's being done online. Couché. I've got a guy that's out there right now that I see with a German Shepherd when he first started in the area of Schutzen. He was from another country, and he didn't even know how to pet his dog right. He didn't know how to communicate at all with his animal. And I've seen him grow over the last 5-10 years to a point now he's one of the top competitors, and he understands a lot more. But without that village, he wouldn't be where he's at. Good. I just saw a picture with him and one of the other top handlers and trainers in the industry. Yep. That's in our area. We're very lucky in a lot of ways. We've got a huge OPA community of all kinds of dog stuff going on. In the world as a whole, I think our LA basin, down into San Diego, all over the place, we've got more dog trainers than God's got cornflakes. Yep. And some of them are very involved with the sports, couché, and they excel. And it's not because of them as an individual. It's more about the community. They got more population, more people that'll be interested in it, more community, and it takes a village attitude. So one thing that I've always kind of fought is that human side of things, that human factor is what I call it, because with that comes another double-edged sword. It's that human factor, right? And having to deal with people and the politics and all the stuff that goes on is hard to deal with for me anyway, because I'm more of a person that loves the dogs and I love to educate. I love to teach my customers. And I always tell them, if you get off the couch and you give me that enthusiasm, you want to learn, I'll give you the world, right? And it's always been the hard part for me, because you got to do a lot to try to bring the human along. The dog's easy. The human factor is the one that's a little harder. Yep. All right, so we've been talking a lot about the collar, but at the same time, I want to let you guys see how I work in general, but more importantly, to make you realize always too fast, never too slow. And if you're trying to do things too fast and you're trying to meet a deadline or something like that, realize it doesn't go very well with dog training, because you're better served to analyze things, to step back from it and to figure out your path as you hit these little spots. And I hit the spot with him where I was trying to show you so much of what was going on, you folks out there in YouTube land, what was going on, that I kind of lost that. And so I lost my flow, because I was so into trying to communicate to you how we do things with the collar, right? So we've hit the first two turnoffs. The first one was getting the dog to come back into me. The next one is going to the table. And now we've got a third turnoff to do, and I won't talk about it yet. It's pretty much, it's going to be another one pushing the dog away from me. I'll give you that much. And then in that spectrum, I started to sense that the dog was starting to go flat and if you try to push, because I want to get this communicate to you guys on how to use the collar, yep, you're doing a disservice to the dog and your training, right? So it's time to get back into the dog and get his drive states up. Good. Nope. Good. Couche. Good. Pas bouger. All right, so it's time to, concentrate on his drive state and then intermix what I need with the collar, right? Yep. All right, so we've talked a lot about, back up. Couche. Good. That's my boy. Good. A lot about, we talked about it yesterday, suppressing and or gas, right? Gas and brake, right? So at some point, when I've started this whole concept of a constant to the dog and started conveying that concept to the animal, that he's got the power to switch it off, we get to a point where we need to start adding taps. What does that mean? That means that I need to start doing things instead of having my hand on the button constantly, where it sends a tingle to the animal's neck in a constant fashion, and then letting it go when he gets to that point you're trying to convey to him, turning off the collar. We get to a point where if you kept that up all the time, the dog would learn to tough it out, and you'd have to give more increase on the stimulation, and the dog would start to lose his want. In other words, that what I was talking about, it starts to go flat on you. So there's a point you need to start backing off on that constant aspect, and you're going to mix it in intermittently in different areas, and I'll show you that as we go along. But at the same time, we start adding taps. That means that I'm hitting the button in a tap fashion. Button on, boom, tap, tap, tap. And I can do that intermittently, and I'm going to change my levels to add to a level that I know is going to get through to him. Not enough that it's going to hurt the dog, but enough to say, hey, it's like tapping you on the shoulder. Hey, wake up. Hey, I'm over here, right? And so we're going to start doing that, and we pair it with things that he already knows. We pair those two things together, meaning he already knows this leash. He knows a jerk release correction when I turn a certain way, and that leash is a big part of his whole lexicon in life. Yep. So when I turn, I give a little tap, right? Good boy, motivate him back up into me. Nope. Good boy. Good. There you go. Good. Little tap. A lot of motivation, showing him where I want him. That tap reminds him, I wanted you here. I didn't want you back here, right? So we can do the same thing with the collar. With me, I can tap. Okay, right when I turn, and I make it as much as like the leash would be, nope, come on, as possible. Now I'm at a 10, he can feel that tap. It's probably a little much. I can sense in the dog, he's going, wait a minute, what is this? He's never had the tap, okay? He's felt the low impulse that stayed there and left when he did the right thing, but he may not understand the concepts totally. I mean, our conceptualization being, yep, come on, couche, good. Yep, all right, you ready? You ready? Good, couche. Good, pas bouger. our conceptualization, because we have the human brain that can analyze things and work things out. Our brain is a higher echelon being. A dog doesn't think in that way. They think in black and white, right? So his mental attitude is affected by us working the animal, back to that teamwork between the two of us, right? I want to always keep him happy, and I want to keep him motivated and in drive. Nope, couché, pas bouger. So it's important that, and I corrected him mainly because the fact he needs to learn, when I say couché, pas bouger, that's pas bouger, that's not getting up, right? So he needs to be reminded that. If I start sitting here yakking all the time and I don't pay attention and he's doing what he wants to do, he's learning bad behavior, isn't he? See? So that's why we correct the dog for that. And if I do this, Simba, yep, you go, boy. Yep, you go freehand. You go, yep, good boy. Now I didn't give him body language, right? Freehand, and usually I'm walking, I'm going places, I'm doing something. And I was sitting there. So the dog sees in pictures. Everything adds up to him of your emotional states of mind, what you're doing, and your patterns of your behavior. If I do it enough, couché, good, pas-bouger, where I start doing this and I put my position in here and I say his release word and I get happy, after a while he'll start to do it from this position. See? But he won't do that unless I show him that in a consistent pattern. And that's why he was looking at me saying, what the hell you mean, release, right? This isn't where I usually get happy. We usually do it when you're walking and you tell me to go do what I want to do, right? Good boy, good. So, always too fast, never too slow. We're going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to get into some other subjects as I keep talking about the collar and kind of weaving it into my discussions when I'm working with Simba, because we're kind of just following Simba along in our 30-day training program. And my stuff is very custom. I go take the dog and I start getting a feel for him. Customer's already given his request. We've already went over what the dog's having problems with or what he wants to do. In this case, he wants to go into bite work with him. And I want a dog that's more stable, and I know I can make sure that he's going to be secure instead of just being a Tasmanian devil and just going off on everything. He's not an area guard dog. If I want that kind of dog, I'll go down to the pound and I'll pick a dog that meets that requirement, put him behind a fence, and I'll just tease him on the fence line and get him to be, but then you have a liability, right? So, and then the lack of confidence is going to be there too. So we have so much other work that we do within building a good personal protection dog. People, places, things, stability. Think about the criteria that I'm always talking about. That criteria is everything, or I won't do it. I tell people that all the time. Oh, I got it, guys. They're all over my house. All I want you to do is come over and tease the dog. No, I won't do that anymore. I did it when I was a kid because I never thought past that, right? But now I've got a reputation of quality and my whole attitude based on being around the environment, being around my community, that all live the same kind of a life. We all have to think about what we're doing to our dogs if we're going to do personal protection, right? It's not an area guard dog. That's what I'm trying to tell people. Personal protection is a criteria. Let's go ahead and go through that. A dog I can take any place with me is friendly and fine. That I can put it on down anywhere I'm at. The dog will totally relax. Can I integrate into my lifestyle in the world, out in public, right? In that criteria, right? And then at the same time, I can give the dog a key word and he'll go from 0 to 60 and nothing flat, that quick. I call that setting the trigger. That gives me a deterrent factor. It gives me, when I get into conflict with somebody, that I can turn the dog on and say, hey, buddy, get the hell out of here. This dog will chew you up, right? And you're going to have something like that happen if you want a personal protection dog. And you need to understand the liability involved with that, of course, right? He could be considered a weapon like anything else. In fact, I think the law enforcement looking at public does consider them a weapon if the dog is sent to bite somebody, right? They have different police powers. They have a lot of different things. They have criteria that's based on law enforcement. It's totally different. I don't live in that world. I have to respect the fact that I live in a civilian world, right? So what decision you make on how much of an edge you put on that knife is important. And you can put an edge on a dog that makes him very unstable and makes him a liability, right? I've got some trainers down the way here that do a lot of bite work. Always teeth, always this, and then they hear me talking on film. They follow my film all the time. They're probably one of my best audience members. and they pick up on it. They use that to make decisions on their marketing and what they do when they video. They're good at the video and they're good at the mouth. it's something else, because I know the world they really live in. They live in the Mastiff world, and they have a lot of bite work, and they do a lot of things that's questionable within the way they do things. Nope, you're all right. You're okay. Yeah, you're okay. Good boy, good. You're not used to somebody stepping over the top of you like that, huh? Yep, you go for a double base, huh? Good. You don't know that one, do you? You want to learn it, do you? So just keep it in mind. That's what a specialty is in personal protection, is a matter of understanding all these aspects of things. I may have never been a law enforcement officer, and there's a lot of, nowadays we're getting a lot more law enforcement officers that become civilian trainers, quasi personal protection trainers and everything, and their whole point of view is that they're better than me because they understand all this. Well, I've been around them for years. Since I've been a baby, I've been in and around the cops because of the fact of what I do for a living, right? And so I understand deployment of, right? Understand the basic ramifications in regards to having a dog that's this quality, right? That is this high in quality, that will actually do the job to put a man down, right? And when I build the dog, I want him to have all that foundational type of a build. He's got to come in hot, heavy. He's got to hit like a shit brick house. The first thing I want him to do when he comes in is with his mouth and his whole body is hit the person like a shit brick house. The first thing I want that dog to do is crunch, right? I want debilitating pain. If you ever get into the sports, you'll see one sport over in Holland and Denmark called KNPV. They actually call it APA over here, and we've got a club down this way, and I know them. And the thing that I like about that sport, that's actually a foundation for a police dog. It's been designed that way. Their suits are not the Pillsbury's Doughboy. They're not like the regular French suits. The French linen suits are a lot more padded, designed differently. They have a different material they have on the suit, very heavy in canvas. And the dog, when he bites, because it's so stiff, will have a tendency to slip off. And what that means in the development, to me, when I watch it, I always break all this stuff down. So I'm analyzing it, I'm breaking it down, and I say, okay, wait a minute, that suit would cause the dog to have to bite harder to be able to hold on because he's going to slip his bite. It's stiffer, right? And underneath that suit, they put a leather gauntlet on the parts, on here and here, and so that gives them protection from that dog biting down. And now the dog being forced to bite harder because that material is a tougher material, that dog will end up having a lot more jaw pressure because he's biting a lot heavier, right? And then think about it, genetic disposition, genetic stamp, as I always call it. In other words, predisposed to do things in a certain way because of breeding, and consistency in breeding and in program that they're into causes that dog to end up being a lot tougher. That's KNPV. That's where he comes from. So when you pick a dog, make sure that you go out in public when you go to do your R&D and realize what you're getting. A lot of people want a Malinois. Oh, they're just popular as all heck. There's hundreds of them getting put down every day because of people's ignorance. They go out and buy that cute little puppy. They think they want one. They get one and they realize they're overmatched. We talked about overmatched the other day. I mentioned it, right? When you pick a dog, you want to make sure, especially if you're going into protection or doing something, Rottweiler, Mastiff, Connie Corso is a great example of that. Really understand the breed and the nature of the breed so you understand what you're getting into. Otherwise, you're going to be overmatched. And the only one that's going to suffer in the end, and you guys that watch my videos know what I'm going to say, the only one that's going to suffer in the end is the dog. That's what makes me upset and really get into these lectures to a point where I'm trying to tell society as a whole, be careful what you ask for, right? And in the end, if you make a wrong decision, you go pick it, because we live in a throwaway society. You ever think about that? They've conditioned us to be in a throwaway mentality. Something gets old, something breaks, we just go buy a new one. And we go to the dump, right? We throw all our stuff away. America is one of the most wasteful countries in the world, and we have a throwaway society because we've been conditioned by marketing and by all these people that do it, mainly electronics and all the toys we get, to be that way. And so when we get a dog, most of society, in a general sense, they've already been psychologically conditioned to do that with the dog. And the dog is the one that suffers. He gets to be a problem. So I'm moving across the country, whatever it is, and they give the dog to the pound. You can't do that if it's your child, right? You have a birth child and that child is yours. The courts say so, society says so, and everybody around you says you can't shirk your responsibility. Once that child comes out of the womb, he's yours, and you don't have a choice. Now, how do I know that, and why do I think about that? Because I was in 23 foster homes all my life. From a 2-year-old child, I was in a foster home because of alcoholism and drugs, right? And I got to be a ward of the court of California and be raised in the system at no fault of my own, right? I learned an awful lot from it, don't get me wrong. I may not have gotten an education like a lot of people do with the good parents and teaching math, English, and all that. I'm weak in those areas, but I'm not a very stupid person. I'm pretty streetwise, as they call it, right? And I'm not a bad person. I never ended up in juvie, didn't go to jail, didn't go in because I kept myself. I learned from a very young age because in a way, it was because of law enforcement kind of being a shadow over the top of me in my little small town. They knew who I was. And I always just kept it one edge away from getting into some pretty good trouble as a kid. But that's all part of being a kid in the rough neighborhood that I grew up in. I didn't really live in a rough neighborhood. I was lucky I was in the country. If I would have been born and raised in the city where I had to be in South Central or something like that, it'd be a whole different animal. And I might have gotten into trouble, gangs and everything else. And not that we didn't have gangs, it's just a matter that we went out the same. That's interesting to me because I'm bouncing back and he didn't respond to it. Good boy, it tells me he's not that into it. So just keep it in mind. When we do personal protection, we do this and you call yourself a personal protection trainer, it's important that you have responsibility and not just going out and doing area guard dogs because there's a lot of liability involved, right? Back when I started, there wasn't as much and the insurance companies hadn't come into it. But nowadays, you notice something? To get insurance, to be able to even get a place to live, a lot of these dogs have been blackballed. German Shepherds are one of the highest dogs to be on the blacklist for trying to get a place to live. Yep, and that's mainly because of society. Couche. Nope. All right, you're all right. Come on. You're on. My fault. My fault. Come on. My fault. That's all right. You ready? Ready? Up. Couche. Good boy. That's good. And good. So we're going to go talking more about the stem collar. But right now I'm talking about how important it is to keep your drive up and understand drive. And then you may need to back off a little bit and give it a little intermittently, right? I'm going to do the box work with him. So let's do that now. Check my camera set. I see. Nope. Come here. Good boy. Good. There you go. Good boy. No. Good. There you go. Nope. Hey. You like this, huh? I got chicken for him this morning. He says, I like chicken. Yes, I do. Good boy. Simba. Goosha. Good. Good boy. Simba. I see. Good boy. Good. Nope. Good boy. Good. Come on. Got to learn the rules, right? He's not allowed to touch that outside edge. Simba. Nabu. Yes. Good boy. Good. Dabu. I'm going to start adding in the word. He's smart enough to figure it out real quick. The general rule, and it's a general rule, is to not give a word until the dog does desired behavior in the criteria that you want, right? You reach that criteria, he's doing real good, then you add a word. That's the general consensus, and that's the unsaid rule. It's actually said by a lot of people. But as a trainer, we break the rule all the time, right? There's a lot of things that I might give a word before I have to condition it and do that. And there's other areas that I take my time and don't add a word until it's time. Dabu, 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 dabu. Yes, good boy, good. Right when he stood up, I give him his marker, and that's why marker training works so well, because the dog can understand exactly when he does the right thing. I've marked that behavior. It's like a picture in time. Click. So when I teach new behaviors, Nabu. Yes, good boy. Right away, right when he did it, I released it. No. Good. Dabu. Good. That's my boy. Good. Yep. Good boy. Good. He mugs the hands way too much. That's another one I need to work on. So in that aspect, I've got a really nice Czech Shepherd that I've got in right now. That's actually my dog to be able to place. Dabu. Dabu. Good boy. Dabu. Nope. Not Dabu. Dabu. No. Dabu. Dabu. Good. Dabu. Good. There you go. Good boy, Dabu. Good boy. And I don't know if you guys noticed something. He's tired of me yakking because I'm not giving him any energy. I'm not giving him any of what I need to give him to get him to work for me because I'm yakking at you. Dabu. Nope. Yep. We're going to break him out. We're going to come back to it. You get in a stuck spot like this, you keep trying and he won't give it to you. Get away from it. Go do some other stuff and then come back to it. Good boy. Yep. Good boy. Good. Double. Yes. Good boy. That was good. Right when he kicked back, right away. Okay. Timing is real important in training. So when I'm doing this, I'm locking my hand, not letting him have it until he gives me the desired behavior. And then right away, I'm releasing one or two pieces. I've got like 4 or 5 in here. Double. Yes. Good. I see. Good. Double. Nope. Double. Good. Yep. And I'm going to break away from him and come sideways so you guys can see that pop out. It's kind of cool when you see him pop out like that. It looks neat. The small things that get me all excited. All right, up with that. You go, boy. Good. Okay, let's see that. Camera angle wise. Yep. All right. Couche. Good. Pabouche. Good. So if I was to evaluate his obedience and stuff, I'd say that he's getting way too heavy into mugging hands and all of that. But he's not here really for obedience. He's really here for bite work. But I wanted to make sure he was stable. In fact, I need to still go out in public and see how he's greeted into a couple of times. He's never showed any aggression. That's from the first time he was here because I'm such an advocate about people, places, and things. So he got a good, he hasn't, this time, he hasn't got a lot of that. But I need to go make sure the stability is there in public before we do bite work. I'm going to have one bite work session tomorrow, and then I got another one next week. I started to line up my decoys. I usually go out and I find my decoys to do the work. Yep. And then I line them up and we start doing our other work. But you notice I'm mixing in a lot of obedience and the things I need for control. And I'm thinking about the dog's mental stability as well. I always tell people it's really easy to get a dog to bite. It's not hard. It really isn't. What's harder is to get the dog's state of mind to be in the right place to be a very well qualified personal protection dog. Now that's a whole different art. Yep, good boy, good. All right, good boy, good. So let's practice on this, and we're just going to work the box. So what we're trying to do now is we're breaking in. He hasn't really had any formal box work. I've just been throwing it at him. He's doing it. Box. Good. So the first thing we want to do if we're using a box is to teach him to get in and out. Yep. Good. So you see me tapping his body and saying yep and bouncing away. That's breaking him out of the box, right? And now what are the rules when he's in the box? Box. Good. Is that he can't touch the outside edges. He's not allowed. And if he does, I give him a light correction, teach him that that's the rule. Dabu. Yes, good boy. Good. Dabu. Now he's doing it faster for any other reason that he's picked up on this. Okay? Good. Yep. Good boy. Good. All right, good boy, good. All right, let's go. Box. This might be a long video, guys. Dabu, good boy, Dabu. Good. Aussie, good. Dabu, yes. Now here's this motion, right? That's going to end up being something that we need to fade out. Dabu, yes, good boy, good. Because he'll get used to this, right? So we'll need to fade that. Yep, good boy, good. Good, there you go. Double. Yes, good boy. And then notice I didn't put it out there. I kept it back. I'm trying to figure out a way that I'm going to fade it early. Why? Because this dog has a tendency to lock into things and to be mugging the hands and all that because he's very intelligent. That's the nature of the beast with the Malinois. Yep, good boy. Now, I didn't touch his body, but I did tap his nose when I said yep. Okay? In a general sense, you want to have something that signifies to him with an explosion to break him out of the box, just like I do my explosion off that table, my explosion release, right? Yep. Box. Good. Good. Good boy. Simba. Goose. Good. He knew it. Just because of my voice tone. A lot of times you don't even realize what you're doing and you start to do a certain voice tone. When you're doing certain things, your emotional state of mind is going to give him something else. With a smart, intelligent dog like that, he even picks up on those very small, minute little things. Simba. Aussie. Aussie. Good, Aussie, good. And I'm going to use it because he's getting so ingrained on that. Simba. Goose. Good, that's my boy. Hear my voice tone? That will be always the same thing, especially if I'm out on the field trying to get him to do it on a trial day. I'm going to really distinctly Aussie because I don't want to make mistakes and lose points, right? Now, keep in mind, I don't compete. I'm looking for a village. I want to work Bruno. I want to get in with a good club that I can start to work with to start to learn to be a good handler because I really don't know the sport other than me sitting on the double. Nope, double. Yes, good boy. That was good double. Good. Yep. In other words, being on the bench and watching it for years, I still have never gone through it and had to be out there in the field and being coached by somebody that really can give me the clues because you got to have somebody to be able to do what they call spotting. Somebody else watches. I might be doing something and not even know I'm doing it. Unless there's somebody on the outside that can spot for me and tell me, hey, Mark, you're doing something. And then I say, okay, you're right, you know. And that's why it takes a village. Everybody's helping each other out. Plus, there's a lot of things that I can do with more than one person out there than I can just by myself. Double. Nope. Double. Yes, double. Good. There you go. Good. Now, he's going to get used to this being underneath his head before I say double. I want to kind of work on that now beforehand, right? Good. Double. Yes, good boy. Nope, double. Good boy, good. There you go. Good boy, good. He knows something's coming. He's looking for what it is. He's not sure yet. Yep. Good boy, good. Good boy. All right, we're done. We're done. All these words, vocabulary, we're done. Good. Showing him my hands, taking off, I'm going to go take a walk and push him away from me. Make sure I balance that dog's mental state of mind to where I want it, right? To me, it's a lot more important to have the dog's head in the right place when he's doing the work. Where is the dog's head at in the work? It's critical, whether you realize it or not. And I don't think, you don't hear any other trainers talking about it. They don't break it down like I do anyway. And that's all right. Aussie. Good. Good. Simba. Good boy. Kusha. No. Good. He's not fast enough. I'm going to rob him of food, and then I'm going to ask for speed by what I do with him, right? Simba. Kusha. Good. He gave it to me without any prompt. Usually I'd go down and start trying to make sure that I show him that I want speed, back it off, mix it in, and then ask for speed, and then they start giving it to you. Good. Good. Simba. Yep. Good boy. Good. Same little break out of the box kind of explosion that I do off my table. But I accented the tapping of the dog's body because that's how you'd get it started with a dog that might not know it, that you're trying to break into the box, right? Good boy. Good. Box. Assis. Pas bouger. Okay, so I've got 3 or 4 pieces in my hand. Good, and I'm looking already forward to what do I need to do to fade things. Good, because he's so englued, he's so receptive to picking up on things. He's used to watching the body. He's used to watching where my hands are at. Everything's coming from that regards. Good. Simba. Dabu. Dabu. Yeah, Dabu. Good. There you go, Dabu. Good. Good. Okay, so notice what happened when I didn't give him any body language as a crutch. All right? Nope. Simba. Gusha. Good. There you go. Good boy. Simba. Aussie. Good. Aussie. Good. Now, of course, this is going to get graduated where I can call a command from a distance because that's the way it would be in ring sport. You have to call this out. They call this change of positions. And a lot of people call this a position box just for that reason because we do a lot of these change in positions with the box. My biggest thing for the box is that hinge back down because it creates a nice hinge back. Watch how he does this. Simba. Kusha. Nope. Now, that's my fault. See the body language? That's the Dabu body language I started, right? Keep in mind and think about what I'm trying to give you here. The dog is more receptive to body language and voice tone than anything else. Your awareness of it is the key to you being able to fade lures and fade things so you don't have to give him that help later on down the line. Good. Simba. Kusha. Good. There you go. And I'm going to ask for more speed later, but right now I'm trying to get him to do the Dabu. So we're mixing it in with 3 different commands, right? Good, good. But see how much I didn't say a word to him. It was all body language that got him to come up. Good boy, Simba. Dabu. Good, Dabu. I'm trying to hesitate on that delivery into the nose so that he pops up on his own without that added hex, and it'll help me fade it faster, right? If I do it every time this way, he's going to need that, and then I've got to fade that lure. It's going to get harder the longer I keep that up. And I'm seeing how receptive he is to reading me like a hawk. Good boy, good. See how he's watching these hands? Good. Simba. Kusha. Good. That's my hand signal for down from out front, either over my head, okay, and or just a nice little, right? Good. Aussie. Nope. Aussie. Good. Simba. Dabu. Dabu. Yeah, Dabu. Good. So I'm working on him hearing that sound and doing it off the sound. He's already got wired. I can see how far he's reaching. Smart dogs, they think 3 and 4 moves ahead if you let them. Good. Aussie. Good. Simba. Dabu. Good boy, Dabu. Good boy. Good. Yeah, go good. There you go. Good. And then I'll transition that into a pause before I give reward, right? Good boy, Dabu. Good boy, Dabu. Good. Yep. All right, guys. Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training, playing around with Simba. We're going to go to the park next. We're going to the park, buddy. Talk to you guys later.